KK Reaper.
And I'm Luna Reaper.
And this is A Frightful Eve. This evening, we will be reviewing Imaginary, about a woman who returns to her childhood home to discover that the imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him.
But first, the horror news.
Theatrical metal act Avatar will be coming to the US for a brief leg of their Great Metal Circus tour. Supporting them will be Oxymorrons and Conquer Divide. The tour will begin on May 8th in Indiana and come to a close on May 18th in Missouri. Avatar are currently playing a number of sold-out shows internationally, so you definitely won't want to miss them when they make their way here. Tickets are on sale now.
This April 13th, QXT's Club in Newark, New Jersey opens its doors to the children of the night, that are 21 and older. Vampires of New Jersey Convention will be hosting vendors, guest panels, and costume contests. Not a vampire? Not a problem. Food, friends, make it all the merrier.
Miramax Television has acquired the rights to none other than the 1978 classic Halloween, with intent to bring its cinematic universe to the small screen as a series. Head of Miramax, Mark Helwig, says they intend to put together the creative team very soon, as this adaptation holds very high priority for the company. Helwig also intends for the show's main focus to pull solely from the original film, rather than the more recent installments. One can only wonder, after the controversial David Gordon Green trilogy, if this could be the comeback Michael deserves.
The 7th Unnamed Footage Festival of 2024 is right around the corner, beginning on March 28th to the 31st in San Francisco, California. New and previously shown films will be on display at the Balboa and 4-Star theaters. This festival celebrates everything faux documentary, POV, and found footage horror alike. Never wait for genuine horror to hit the local big screen. These are films that are truly created with passion and terror.
Final Destination will celebrate its 25th anniversary in 2025 with a brand new installment of the franchise, according to producer Craig Perry. The post to Perry's social media reveals Final Destination Bloodlines, the 6th film in the series, has already wrapped day one of shooting after struggling through the pandemic and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Franchise creator Jeffrey Reddick notes this will be, quote, a true Final Destination movie, but one that doesn't follow the kind of formula that we've kind of established. More on this as news develops.
It's 1977, and a new late-night host is promising entertainment like never before. Tonight, our host is inviting Lily, the subject of a book titled Conversations with the Devil, in hopes to show the masses of late-night viewers an attempt to talk to Satan himself. When the cameras go live, there's no hiding deadly mistakes. Late Night with the Devil is a Shudder original that will be available in theaters March 22nd.
For more information on these events, check out the links in the description below.
And now for the review of Imaginary. You know, we got so lucky with our last movie. And you know how hard it is to lose that momentum.
It's painful.
I can't tell if I'm a stiffler with time. But I feel like we've gotten so spoiled with some movies, and I didn't have massive hopes.
No, not by any means. I feel like when we go into PG-13 horror in general, we usually go in with a little bit less of an expectation, just on that premise alone. But even by that standard, this did not deliver.
Yes, and I think a lot of our company, when we went to the movies, I know there's a whole trope in the horror movie that a lot of us say, like, we love bad horror. We love bad horror.
Yes.
I don't love underwhelming horror.
Yes.
That bums me out.
Yeah. That was, to see Blumhouse kind of stagger with this is like a bit of a letdown, just because they made a lot of movies that we did enjoy. And even some of the cornier ones. I mean, like, they have really turned the market for PG-13 horror, I feel like, in the last couple of years. Like The Black Phone, Megan,
See, that's why I have expectations for PG-13. I don't think it has to be horrific to be good.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And not to say, it wasn't that, like, any one of the, like, a lot of the times it doesn't really, like, rock our socks off, depending on what it is. But this was, as I said to you before, Walmart Insidious. Yeah. If you're going to... there's a lot of things to unpack there, but, your core concept is carbon copied. Mm-hmm. So the originality isn't there.
Right.
And you somehow did it worse.
I think... I don't even know where to start. I already went into it kind of like, okay, I saw the trailer, I saw where this needed to go. Even the beginning, it was just, I think the character tropes were so forced, like they didn't really create people, especially with I'm gonna call him boyfriend, or no, did they get married? Was it a husband?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I think they were married at that point, yeah.
Husband was, I married a guy that plays guitar.
Right.
And that's it. And I'm a painter that went through some things.
Yes.
And I have a teen daughter that doesn't like me.
And the littlest one that does.
Yes.
Yeah. And is like innocence of youth. And the crazy neighbor.
Yes.
That's obsessed with your situation.
I was your babysitter.
Yeah, right.
And I've been waiting for you to come. I've made many novels on your childhood.
And that's, it's not like... There is a certain point where it's 2024. There's a lot of movies that have copied the same narrative. And it's because, like, how many ways can you spin that story,
Right.
But at least if you understand that, there's a way to make it entertaining, either in the way that you understand that it's a trope and you kind of poke fun at that.
Right.
Or you find a way to change the narrative at least a little bit, like give something new to it.
I think so. I think for me, it took too long to read as a horror movie.
Yeah.
The only thing
the exposition for that first, hour.
They only had the guy, the entity, standing in the background, and that's not... I think people can get lazy in horror movies. The point is to instill dread that comes to a certain climax, either frequently or even at the end.
Yeah.
You just putting someone in the background does not instill dread or hopelessness and stuff like that. And I think people have gotten too formulated with this plus this equals this. Putting thing in background that we can't see is a way to make people, uneasy. And that just, I think that's what bothered me the most. Not so much the unoriginal idea, but it took so long to be like, oh, we are watching a scary movie.
Yeah. And that's sometimes I do try to read that as like whether or not we're desensitized or not, but I mean like everyone in that movie theater left there underwhelmed, and you could feel that, and especially for it to be PG-13, to have a younger audience still not remotely frightened is the statement of a lifetime for a horror film. You know?
I mean, we are very comfortable with being in movie theaters where people are, specifically the teeny boppers, are just, they're screaming, they're hollering, they're poking fun at their friends. We hear it, we see it. This wasn't even...
Nobody did anything. They were so... you could feel like the letdown, and they just didn't want to even be involved. And I know I'm forever the optimist when it comes to stuff like this, as far as looking at certain aspects of a film and trying to find pros in it.
You are.
And I did like everything that they were trying to do was the same trope as Insidious. It had a little bit of an Elm Street vibe to it, to some extent.
Because of the dreams?
Kind of, like an imaginary friend and things like that, and kind of the back and forth with that, and the fact that, like, Chauncey wasn't actually there, you know? No. And things that Chauncey was manifesting that weren't actually there. Like, that one scene where she's about to slam her hand on the nail.
Got it.
You know, that at least...
Well, was that a manifestation or the entity just completing a ritual?
Well, it was completing a ritual by means of, like, manipulating her. You know, the reason she saw it as a flower was because Chauncey convinced her that it wasn't going to hurt to slam her hand down on it. So he was doing it for means of himself. But, you know, but that would have been more interesting, I think, if that had been, like, a more consistent theme throughout the movie. If Chauncey was, like, just messing with their reality in the house, something along those lines. You know, if they had did more with Imagination Land and did it better than they did. That's it, you know, for a Blumhouse production, you know, it's not like an independent budget.
Right.
So what they did and how underwhelming it all was as it tied together, like even that final act, I was like, just save it in the final act. And still, like, the imaginary land was nothing to, like, you know, it wasn't anything to write home about.
No, like, I saw all the doors and I thought, like, oh, is this a cabin in the woods moment? Like, are we gonna see all these things?
Other things coming out.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
No.
That's it. The only thing that I thought was remotely, like, salvageable as far as effects and production in that sense go was the spider. The spider looked kind of creepy. Like, and I mean that, but that's still setting the bar relatively low compared to everything else. Chauncey as, like, a demon bear was ridiculous.
Well, and I know you didn't get to see the first couple moments of the movie, but I think that's what also ruined the spider for me, is that I know that they have to show something to show what's going on in the beginning, but for those of us that were in the theater, the spider was right there and then.
Right.
In full force. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So we got everything.
In the first 5 minutes.
Got it.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like, this could have been a short film on YouTube. I could have not paid to see it, and I would have been like, that's okay.
We used gift cards.
We did. We did use gift cards. So we didn't directly pay for it. But, you know, those could have definitely gone to literally anything else.
I don't know.
And I think the thing that kills me more than all of that, and sitting through an hour and 44 minutes of just exposition leading to one kill off screen and just typical, like, everything went exactly how you knew it was going to go, was that we were saying just before that this raked in 10 million over the weekend.
Yeah.
So box office, you know, like, opening weekend, 10 million. Lisa Frankenstein didn't even break even in its entire duration while it was in theaters.
That's because nobody likes to watch girls have fun.
And even more, I saw people commenting. I've seen clips since then of, like, people talking about, like, how could you not have gone and seen Lisa Frankenstein? And they're like, oh, it must have been crap because I never saw any advertising for it. And I was like, there was a ton, you know. I thought anyway, you know. It's just a shame that went so underrated within the same span of time that Imaginary comes out, and this gets all the accolades because it's a Blumhouse production.
Yes.
And it pales so heavily in comparison.
And I think we need to shake the idea of advertisement equals good, because we know that's just a marketing team at work.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the quality, and especially if you're into horror, and not to be like, oh, you're only a real fan if you watch indie movies or stuff like that. But if you only get to what's that in that first 15 minutes of a movie theater, like, you're really only on the surface of horror, and you're missing out on some great stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's why we try to even hit, when we go to like Regal.
Yes.
Regal throws in movies that are real independent.
Yes.
If you search hard enough, it's not even hard enough. If you download AMC, Regal, Cinemark's apps and just look through the selection, you find some hidden gems. I would say, even though it was cheesy, like stuff like The Mean One,
yeah.
like it's fun. It's
but
campy,
that's a bad horror movie that we like.
Right.
Sorry,
exactly.
Continue.
No, that's a perfect explanation. It's a production that was independent completely and understood that it was so bad it's good, I think.
Yeah, I'm coming off as a real hater this episode. And you know what? I am.
And rightfully so. I don't think that it's unwarranted. I try as I might with most of the movies we go to. Like I said, Forever the Optimist, I really did sit there and I was like, maybe they'll save it, and then bam, Teddy Ruxpin comes out with giant fangs looking like a Spirit Halloween animatronic, and the family that they're imagining with the teddy bear eyes looks like Party City prosthetics.
And you know what? I could have loved that teddy bear if it was a movie about a killer teddy bear just ripping jugulars out.
Yeah. Yep.
I could have loved it.
I would take that. Like, again, core concepts. That whole thing with the flower and the nail, if that was like consistent and really messing with their reality, something along those lines.
Yes. Also, I know she's a little girl, so I'll give her some grace, but the list specifically requires something that'll hurt. True. So
you would think that, yeah, and then she's like, is this gonna hurt? And hey, no. Yeah, I don't know there was definitely a lot of that going on. The acetone burning that entire house with like just a couple of drops from the
acetone that like Jessica and the entity are really duking it out in the final moments, and the acetone only lights up the creature, and it's like, I thought maybe it's like, oh, go down with each other. It only hits that specific path. Right. 5 seconds later, and the whole house is engulfed.
Yep.
Physics.
And and Jessica's hair is like down in it. Like,
yes, her hair's down. Like,
yeah, that's if they had even taken like that risk, and that's they had one other character that they could have killed off that would have meant nothing, and they didn't even do that with the
neighbor boy,
yeah. Which granted, that was probably the only kind of comical, like when he closes the blinds to his window when
oh yes,
what's her name is like Alice, and he's like, no, screw that, I'm not getting involved. That was at least kind of funny,
right?
But still something, like just have the teddy bear randomly appear in his room. I don't know, something.
Yo no sé.
If you're only gonna kill off the babysitter, that just. And it was off screen, and it was CGI blood out the door.
The arm killed me because there was like no movement to the arm. It really was a stationary like, and then just
pulled in. Yeah. Oh man.
And it stinks because I didn't recognize the babysitter immediately, but the whole time I was watching, I was like, I know that face and I know that voice.
I thought that.
Why do I know it? If there's anything to know about me, is that I am a Carrie stan, and I love that movie and I love that book. It's great. And I didn't recognize the gym teacher. What was her character's name?
In this, it was Gloria.
Gloria. I did not
Betty Buckley was
I did
the
not
actress.
recognize Betty Buckley as Gloria.
Right.
And I love you, Betty. This wasn't it.
And I knew from the moment, like, I when she came on screen, it just felt like she was meant to be some sort of callback to something else.
Right.
In the way that a lot of these movies kind of
if I
throw
see
that in.
a woman with really cool glasses, 50s to 70s in one of these movies, I'm like,
you're somebody from something else.
I'm going to look into you. Just give me a moment.
Right. And that's, we talked a little bit about the acting too, and how it was kind of, in my opinion, I think that they did an okay job. A lot of them could use some work in how they portrayed their characters. But also, I think that the writing in general was pretty rough on this.
Right.
And so even somebody as iconic as her, like, her character was written kind of poorly, and so she just did the best she could with the material she had.
Yes.
Even that whole sequence of her, like, freaking out in the imagination land, where she was like, we could do anything we want. Like, I was like, that was the moment when they do the pan out, like the
yes.
vertigo effect. Mm-hmm. I was like, this is it. This is where our rating comes in. Yes,
and what I would give to play a proper mental breakdown. I know that people know how to play breakdowns. Mm-hmm. What was I thought I was watching like Willy Wonka or something. It's like, we could do anything.
Right.
We can drink the fountain.
Yeah,
like, it's just one of those, like, it's syrup, but no.
Yeah, I know. They kept using the fact that the actress, what was her name? DeWanda? Mm-hmm. The fact that she could cry on command, they just kept coming back to that. I guess they loved the fact that she could do that.
I know that I've seen her in things that I've loved, so I know that she's a good actress, but this was...
Well, that's what I mean, is that, I think it was really representative more of whoever was behind the writing than it was them themselves. I feel like they just, like I said, like, worked with what they had.
You can't get mad at the waitress for the chef's cooking, am I right?
You certainly are.
Luna. Luna Reaper.
What, Bartholomew?
What is the final verdict?
As dull as it is unoriginal, Imaginary is anything but. It fails to make the cut even by standards of PG-13 horror, with stale acting and writing, Halloween store-level effects, and abysmal attempts to shock or surprise the audience at all.
It is a shame to see a promising production company like Blumhouse fall so far from grace with this latest installment. Even the best features of this film leave much to be desired, and don't even begin to make up for a nearly 2-hour runtime. And for that, we give this film a 3 out of 10.
That's our show. Thanks for tuning in.
And until next time, Ghosts and Ghouls, have a frightful eve.